It's the 21st century. Health is so important, and stress in the workplace is obviously an extremely critical topic of conversation. I would say stress is probably even more dangerous than sugar, than tobacco. It's alcohol, all of it, whatever it is. Stress is the number one cause of every problem, and I'm sure we'll find that in studies in the future. So that's the topic of today's session, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to Unqualified Opinions, an off-the-cuff talk show where we have some very qualified individuals, thought leaders, colleagues of mine who are going to give their hot takes to you, to me, to each other, and see if we can't get some new perspectives and interesting information. I am your host, Drew Carrick, and I will be awarding points to those who make the best points and give a great in-depth analysis. Whoever maybe just keeps rambling and ranting and doesn't give me a chance to speak, because then, hey, it's less work that I have to do. What do the points mean? Absolutely nothing. Unlike independent auditors, I will be awarding these points completely subjectively. No objectivity is happening on these financial statements or any of the statements that are being made for that matter. And the winner gets their very own unqualified opinion. We have a great show lined up for today, and I want to start by going around the room and actually introducing each of our very qualified thought leaders. So, Kelly, you want to introduce yourself first?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Rohrs. I run an accounting and tax practice here on Long Island, but there are no boundaries for me. We service clients all over the country in professional services, and I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristin Gayoso. I am a CPA, and my day job is I'm the director of finance at a sports betting startup called SimpleBet. But my side hobby, I guess you could say, is I make memes. Basically, Misery Loves Company type of thing, based off the struggles I went through in public accounting and beyond.
Awesome. So sports betting. I mean, that's a topic in and of itself that I feel like we could really, delve into the pros and cons, the accounting of that. I don't even want to think about actually the accounting of that.
Oh yeah, the rev rec is fun.
Oh, that would be fun. All right, and then finally, Dave, you're not starting off with any points because you're not from New York or whatever, but perhaps with a powerful introduction here. I mean, you do have a high quality web camera. Let's give Dave a point for having a high quality web camera and a beautiful background at that too. Because like I said, the green popping off of this quantify right there. Dave, let's get your introduction.
Yeah, well, I feel a little bit teamed up on being from Philadelphia and three New Yorkers on this show here, but that's okay because we're the ones that are in the World Series right now. So, but anyway, so my name is Dave Ashworth. I run a business called the Quantified Group. Been in business a little bit over 10 years now. It's an outsourced accounting and bookkeeping company. I spent a good chunk of time in public accounting before I started the company, and we also are a remote company working with clients all over the country.
So I want to start off with this first prompt here because we've got this lot of workplace culture talk that's happening nowadays, a lot of focus on mental health. And studies have found that 1 in 4 people actually quit their jobs due to something mental health related. So I was kind of curious. I wanted to know, is mental health really that big of a deal as we've made it become? Because like 20 years ago, it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like it's something that nowadays has become a big topic of conversation. And previously it wasn't even something that kind of was thought about. If you're to ask any of our parents, they grew up in a different era where it wasn't the big deal that it is nowadays. So, is mental health the real deal? Is it important? And why wasn't it spoken about?
I think part of the reason it wasn't spoken about 20 years ago is because social media wasn't around 20 years ago. So now people have a platform to have their voices be heard. And they're using it. And now mental health is getting the platform that it deserves because it's definitely something that is an issue in every field, but very bad issue in accounting.
I think that mental health is a huge problem right now, and it's extremely evident in the public accounting fields, with there being a mass exodus from public accounting because people do not want to work 80-hour weeks. People actually value their health and their family and a personal life. And that's why every accounting firm is having trouble hiring right now.
I'm sure that, back in the day, mental health was still an issue. Maybe it didn't get talked about as much, but just the times that we live in, everything seems so just divisive, and everything is so fast. Everybody wants everything right now. And I think all of those things just cause stressors in our lives, and specifically in our profession. I think people are just starting to realize the wear and tear that it can have on somebody. I know that I did. And, just losing huge chunks of your life to this job and this profession can really cause a lot of stress in your life. And so I do think it's something that is real and needs to be talked about more, which is a big reason that we're on the show here today, have those discussions.
Yeah. Why do people stick with their jobs in the first place? Because obviously, if anything, you'd think it's gotten easier, right? We have technology nowadays. We have Excel, which you didn't have, well, I don't know how 35 years ago, right? You have these programs, applications, things that are supposed to make our jobs easier, yet it seems like we're becoming more and more stressed because of all of these things. You don't have to, write in a ledger anymore what transactions are happening, and you're not ticking and tying with a pen and a paper. So what was keeping people in their jobs, and is there more stress now than there used to be before?
So I think part of it is a generational thing. Like my parents, they would just say, you get a job and you work at that job for 40 years and you retire and you move on. And now in today's day and age, it's so easy to just find other things just on the internet, sitting at your desk at home. And now most people work from home. So it's really easy to move around. There really doesn't seem to be a lot of loyalty on either side from an employer or an employee standpoint. Everyone just seems to kind of bounce around and go to different places. But I will say, specifically in our profession, and I'm sure we'll get into this, I don't think we're doing a good job to encourage people to stay around. I think there's a lot of things that we do that are actually encouraging people to go and look for something else. And I'm sure we'll get into some of those topics as we continue here.
Yeah, and I would also add that there are some people that, on the other hand, are afraid to leave. They're stuck in those big four jobs because of this fear of the unknown. They've been fed this whole view of make it to partner, things will be better, stay in public accounting, it'll pay off. This whole vision they sell you, in accounting classes. And some people don't leave. And then there's the people who are brave enough to leave, like the ones Dave are talking about, that go on to jobs that have better work-life balance, better pay. But there's still those people that are afraid to leave because of the fear of the unknown. And those are the people who are suffering because they're afraid to leave, they're afraid to question it, and they're not sure what's going to happen.
I agree with both of you. I think that there is this fear of the unknown, and also they are comfortable with the devil that they do know. So, they want to continue with their job security, or they are used to following that dangling carrot for partner. And, I have also, gone through that, been dragged along, partner this, partner that, and sometimes it just doesn't come to fruition for one reason or another. And a lot of people now are making that jump into private or going off on their own. There's so many more options for people out there. So I think that the tide is turning, and I think it'll still take another 10 to 15 years to really make some significant changes in mental health and to really revamp the public accounting space. But I think that we're finally making some moves.
What will it take for the leader of a company to actually keep their employees? Because I feel like a lot of this is, and to Kristin's point, this is, talking about social media. I didn't know how awesome the lives of the people in this city were, or how awesome the lives of that people that have a boat, or they have a car, or they have access to all these cool amenities and stuff like that. We didn't see that. You knew your bubble, and you're like, okay, I'm amongst peers, I'm amongst colleagues, I'm living a good, solid life. Now you see access to things that are obviously exaggerated on social media. So that obviously takes a mental toll on your, what am I missing out on? And I'm somebody who's personally suffered severely from FOMO. And so always having this sort of fear of missing out on things. So I'm wondering what would it take for the leader of a company to actually ensure that their people stay? Because is there a point where we're just giving too much, where if you're the leader of a company, it's like, what do I have to do to get you to stay? Because I'm giving you perks, I'm giving you benefits, I'm increasing your salary the best that I can. It seems like, is there ever going to be where enough is enough, or is it just not in the playing cards?
If these expectations are going to be the same and the crazy hours are still going to be expected, the pay needs to be so ridiculously higher because students in accounting, they could go major in finance. These are smart people who were majoring in accounting. They could major in finance. They could go work for an investment bank. They could go work for a tech company. You can easily make a lot of money in those jobs. So why would you pick accounting when the starting salary might be 50, 60K? And maybe even if they bump it up to 70, it's still nothing compared to the other fields. So they either have to pick one or the other. Pay a lot more, don't change anything, keep the pay the same, but give them 40-hour weeks.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think the crazy hours is the biggest factor in my opinion. That was what got me out of public accounting pretty quickly. I love what I do. I love accounting, and I feel like we provide a lot of value to our clients, but the accounting work that I'm doing is not the most important thing in my life, and it's not the most important thing in my employees' lives either. And I would say for anybody in public accounting, it's probably not the most important things in their life either. And I think that a lot of people in that space, they talk about work-life balance and encourage people to do that. But to me, it's just kind of like they're not really following through with it. They're just using words. It's like, hey, yeah, you'll have a great work-life balance here, but from January to April, you'll basically go home, sleep, and come back in the office. Well, that's not a work-life balance. Like, how are we actually encouraging people to have a life outside of what they're doing? For us, we work 40-hour weeks. We don't work any overtime the whole year. And so there's a lot of discussion that needs to happen around that, how to accomplish that. But I think it's just so accepted that you get into this, you work your 70, 80 hours a week from January to April, and you move on. And I think that for me, that's what got me out of it. And I think that needs to change, or we're just going to continue to see people stay away from accounting.
Sure.
I agree, Dave. I think that the term work-life balance is thrown around way too much, and there's actually very little work-life balance. Any Big Four that preaches work-life balance is pretty much a joke. But being in public accounting, staying in public accounting, and having my own firm, I made it a point to, when I hired another CPA or a bookkeeper, I said, I am not going to do overtime during tax season. And I was able to get a very good employee. It's possible. You just have to actually create the firm that you want. Everybody's stuck in, well, we've always done it this way. And that's the worst attitude to have. So all of these older firms say, well, why should we work 40 hours a week during tax season? Well, why don't you just hire more people and work less hours? It's not that difficult of a concept. And beyond the hours and the compensation, I think it's really important to build actual relationships with your employees. Like, you actually genuinely care about them. I don't start my day with my employees by asking them what they've done for me yesterday. I say, how is your family? What's going on? How are you feeling? And I think that goes a long way.